Okay, today I'm going to go over how to calculate the profitability index. And some people get confused because there's two ways to calculate the profitability index. So I'm going to go over both ways to calculate it. And so let's just go ahead and jump right into the video. So we have a project we're going to do, and I'm going to go ahead and change this to 8% here. 8%. And we're investing $860 in a project, and it's going to give us a return of these cash flows over 6 years. And the money we borrow, our cost of our capital is going to be 8%. So it's going to cost 8% to cover this. And we want to know, is this project profitable? And the way we're going to do is we're going to calculate it using the profitability index. So this is the formula right here for the profitability index, and both of them use, both ways to calculate uses the NPV formula. So let's calculate the NPV first. So the normal way you calculate NPV in Excel, you're going to go equals NPV, and then it asks for the rate in bold, so I'm going to click on the rate, and then go comma, and it asks for the cash flows. So a normal NPV is a little bit trickier because you don't include the cash flow on time 0. So you would just pick these 6 years, okay, and then you'd add time 0 back in outside of that. Now the reason I don't know why NPV has it that way, because some of the other function like internal rate of return doesn't have it that way. But if you want to do NPV, you have to always add the year 0 outside of NPV. Okay, and of course it has to be a negative cash flow in this case because this is money coming out of your pocket, and that gives us a net present value of $1,330.67. I'm going to go ahead and put the formula in here for you. Okay, so that's the NPV. So now, so the first way we're going to calculate it. We're going to calculate it and say, so there's two ways you can look at the profitability index. You say if the profitability index is greater than 1, then you accept. All right, so that's one way you could do it. And if you're going to do it that way, you're going to use this formula. So let's go ahead and do it. We're going to go equals. So NPV, we have it calculated right here, so it equals this. I'm going to put it in parentheses, right, because it's the numerator and I want to add it first before we divide it. So it's going to be this plus this cash flow times 0. The only problem, this formula is a little bit tricky to use because it wants the positive cash flow. Since I have it negative up here, I'm going to have to put a negative this to make that positive. Okay, and then you're going to go divided by, and then again cash flow 0 on the bottom, and again I want that to be a positive cash flow in this case. So I'm going to go negative this, okay, and that's going to give us a profitability index. Now, this is a number, right? So I'm going to change that. I'm going to reformat that as a number. So my profitability is 2.55. That's greater than 1, so I would say, so let me put the formula here. So I would accept it, right? Now of course you can look at net present value just by itself. If that's greater than 0, you would accept it too, right? So this gives you the same answer, but in this case you're comparing it to 1. Now another way you sometimes see profitability index, they say, well, they use 0 as a comparison. So if it's greater than 0, accept. Okay, so some textbooks happen to have it that way. So the textbook I'm currently teaching on has it this way. So you have to interpret this profitability, this net present value, a little different. This formula is actually kind of wrong if you do it the way the book I'm teaching on it currently, because that one, it only wants the net present value for these cash flows. So it would be equal to the net present value of these, we're going to use this rate again, and then these cash flows, and you wouldn't add them back in, okay? And that's going to be in the numerator, and then you're going to add back, then you're going to follow this again, and then you're going to go plus, and then again you want to make this positive, so you're going to go negative this, and close the parentheses, divided by a negative this again, okay? And that's going to give you, no, it looks like I had a little mistake here. What did I do wrong? Hold on. I don't know why that's not working out. Equals NPV, V10, plus 1. I'm sorry, I made that too complicated. You don't put this in here because that's already included, right? So you just do it by itself. I'm making it too complicated. So I really, instead of doing this, I just click on this. So it's going to be this divided by that. And again, that format's going to be, sorry, I didn't mean to, see, sometimes even I make a mistake when I'm doing this, even though I teach it. So this is using 0, okay? So 1, you divide, the 1, if you use 1 as your decision rule, then you're gonna take this NPV and add back that cash flow. If you're going to use 0 as your decision rule, you just take the NPV by itself and divide it by a positive this. Okay? So it's actually simpler than I was trying to make it. So we could test this. We could do something called the internal rate of return. And if we go equals IRR, and in the internal rate of return, you pick all of them, and we get 43.09%. So the internal rate of return is basically what if I make what would make the NPV 0 basically. So what would make this equal all of these cash flows? So what would make it so I'd be indecisive on whether to take the project or not? So I could check that. So I could go up here to this 8%. I can go equals this internal rate of return, and you can see at that point I'm indecisive here because it's exactly 1. And I'm indecisive here, so it's exactly 0. So I know it's correct. So I'm going to change that back to 8%. 8%. So again, profitability index should be easy, but it can be hard depending on what, when somebody says, are you using this? When someone says, what's the profitability index? You almost have to ask, are you using the calculation where you're using 1 to accept, or are you using the calculation where you use 0 to accept? In my case, in the class I'm teaching right now, the book uses 0. I'm kind of used to using the 1. A lot of times you go on the internet and look, it's going to use that 1. So you got to be kind of careful with the profitability index in that aspect. Even when you look at the formula, right? This formula, the book has this formula, but really, is this the NPV? You don't have this cash flow up here, right? Because this is the NPV divided by that. So this term would not be here if you're using the 0. Even the book gives you this formula, and the book wants you to use the 0. So anyway, hopefully that makes sense. It's actually more complicated than it should be. But anyway, that's the profitability index. Thanks for watching. Oh, by the way, I have my picture up here. If you want to subscribe to my channel, go ahead and click on that picture, and I'll allow you to subscribe. Like my video if you like these videos. If I get enthusiasm, I'll make more of them. All right, thank you. Bye.